Next week, Buffy returns to Monday night.
The dark forces are aligning against us, and we have a chance to beat them back.
In a world of evil, where anyone can turn on you.
What's he doing here?
Who can the chosen one trust?
I just thought I'd warn you.
Buffy! The hit sensation the New York Times calls the most promising new series on television. Next week, an all-new Buffy the Vampire Slayer on its regular night Monday.
The Anointed One, Father's favorite son.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 1 Episode 5, Never Kill a Boy on the First Date, written by Rob Des Hotel and Dean Batali, and directed by David Semel, follows Teacher's Pet as one of 3 episodes in which alternate love interests are explored for the 3 main teenagers, the last being Season 1 Episode 8, I, Robot You, Jane. But while Teacher's Pet and I, Robot You, Jane have Xander and Willow being malevolently pursued by demonic forces, Never Kill a Boy on the First Date pairs up Buffy with the harmless boy Owen, and is more of a character piece focusing on where Buffy is as a Slayer and a student of Sunnydale High, as well as her relationship with Giles.
You know, I always wondered about you two.
Oh, gross, Spike.
Begins with Buffy fighting a vampire in one of Sunnydale's many graveyards. This is the first we see of what will be a common way to start an episode, showing Buffy actively defending Sunnydale as a hero. Prior to this, her going out to fight vampires has been something worked up to over the course of an episode. Problems would come up and then she'd deal with them. This shows her progression as a hero figure, in that she can be trusted to constantly be fighting evil and keeping people safe. We see her getting so confident that she says a witty line as she kills a vampire.
We haven't been properly introduced. I'm Buffy, and you're history.
The Slayer always says a pun or a witty play on words.
That'll put marzipan in your pie plate, bingo.
And then Giles pops up to grade her technique, much to her annoyance. While Giles is a father figure, he's also a analogous to a private trainer. It's like Buffy is an athlete and slaying vampires is her sport. And she's a teenager doing her best with extracurricular activities, and is annoyed that her best isn't good enough for her trainer. Giles then notices that the vampire dropped an interesting ring, noting him to be a member of a particular vampire group, which is the Order of Aurelius. Down in the underground church, the master gives a twisted sermon about an anointed one that will lead the Slayer into hell. The show has implicit Christian themes. It's heavily implied that the Christian God is behind Buffy's Slayer mission, and little reminders of this are present with the use of crosses and holy water to keep vampires at bay. And God being the force behind this is discussed in Angel Season 1 Episode 14, I've Got You Under My Skin. And Buffy Season 2 Episode 3, School Hard, describes the crucifixion of Jesus Christ as a literal event that one Order of Aurelius vampire claims to have been to, for vampire street cred. The vampires thus far are presented as very satanic. They're villains for Christians that mock and distort Christianity with a mirror religion of evil. Though Satan will not be explicitly referenced as a literal being affecting the world until Season 4, Episode 6, Wild at Heart, the sense I get from the Order of Aurelius vampires is that they're Satan's followers and getting to do apocalyptic magic because Satan enables it. There's an evil Bible analog that the Master reads from that was written by a man named Aurelius, which I believe refers to Marcus Aurelius, a corrupt Roman emperor. The show implies that in addition to being a corrupt human ruler, he was actually a vampire cult leader. The Master reads Aurelius's evil prophecy describing the creation of a vampire Antichrist, as the title Anointed One is another translation of Christ. This Anointed One would be a powerful force of evil.
Here endeth the lesson.
Next day at the library, Buffy and Giles research the ring. Buffy helps identify the signet as belonging to the Order of Aurelius. This shows that even though Buffy doesn't like hitting the books, she can do it and be effective at it. A lot of feminists don't like the show because they think she's stupid.
You know, Buffy, sweet girl, not that bright.
But she's really not.
I think it's bloody brilliant.
And then the love interest Owen shuffles in. Owen is basically an emo caricature before emo was a thing. He's a shy, soulful poet, and girls think he's dreamy without good reason. It's the same basic collection of traits as an emo guy, and he's a comical figure in the same sort of way as the Jock and Paranorman. Girls are into him, but he's really a joke. Even though he's not amusing in-universe in the manner of Xander, get the feeling that the audience is supposed to laugh at him. Buffy's into him and tries to flirt with him by pretending to be like an emo girl herself and be interested in Emily Dickinson and be a bookworm. I like that Buffy isn't just in her element in flirting with him. It would have been easy to make Buffy capable in every realm as a method of making her a good role model for girls, but it would have cheapened the character. She's more of a realistic person for being awkward around a guy she likes, and girls can relate to that more than just a perfect character, so it makes her feminist attributes resonate stronger.
Oh, Emily Dickinson.
We're both fans.
Yes, she's quite a good poet. I mean, for
A girl?
For an American.
There's a lot of sexism in academia and everywhere, really. The idea that girls are less capable than boys, or women than men, is pervasive. Good for a girl is a common fake compliment from boys who are sore losers. To a degree, it's cheesy for Buffy to so overtly challenge what she thinks is an example of sexism, but that's also something worth being said. If you're gonna have a show with giant foam mantises and men on all fours playing dogs, you might as well have a good message delivered in a cheesy way.
I wear the cheese. It does not wear me.
The nationality politics are depicted as petty elitism. I imagine it's based on Joss's time in England. I imagine his teachers teased him and he teased them back. Giles is named after one of them, actually a female teacher, so it's reasonable to imagine that the character is a big homage to Joss's teachers in England. After Owen shuffles off, we see the main conflict of the episode. Giles wants Buffy to fight the Order of Aurelius, while Buffy wants to pursue Owen. It's the age-old negotiation between personal social life and dedication to a sport, here represented as a literal life-and-death situation.
Everything is life or death when you're a 16-year-old girl.
Buffy asks Giles if her outfit makes her look fat, which is another example of teenage pressures to achieve beauty standards being brushed aside for a joke.
No, the fact that you're fat makes you look fat.
In the same sort of way that Owen is a mockery of emo guys, I get a sense of the early show mocking shallow teenage girls. A similar thing comes up in Season 2, Episode 15, Phases, when Buffy supposes that her time searching Lover's Lane for a werewolf is best spent gossiping about who she saw with whom. Fortunately, that shallow depiction disappears by Season 3. At lunch, Willow and Buffy talk about her possible connection with Owen. The conversation feels realistic without mocking teenage girls as could have been done easily, and I like that the show continues respect for these characters. Willow suggests that Buffy go sit with Owen, and Cordelia tries to screw it up, but she doesn't count on Owen liking Buffy and not her. Owen makes a date with her to go to the Bronze that night. Unfortunately, Giles shows up with bad news. The Order of Aurelius is going to summon the Anointed One that night in a ritual from the ashes of 5 people, so Buffy has to miss Owen to hang out with Giles in the graveyard. To make things worse, the vampires never even show up. Giles supposes that he miscalculated the date. Buffy's social life took a hit for nothing. Buffy wants to head to the Bronze to salvage her date with Owen, and Giles warns her about getting involved with someone because she needs to keep her identity as the Slayer secret. In the film, she was presented as more of a basic masked vigilante character, needing to keep her civilian identity safe from vampires to keep them from targeting her directly. And it was just implied that everyone would think she's crazy if she were to reveal her Slayer life to anyone. In Never Kill a Boy on the First Date, this is expanded into her needing to keep her Slayer life secret from civilians, specifically because it would put their lives into jeopardy as well. Xander and Willow finding out was an unfortunate circumstance, and this must not be repeated.
Well, in that case, I won't wear my button that says, "I'm a Slayer, ask me how."
Buffy arrives at the Bronze only to find Cordelia making a move on Owen. Grrr. As it turns out, Giles was right on the date, but made a slight error. The ritual doesn't involve existing dead, but 5 people killed in the sacrifice. Across town, vampires attack a bus full of people, including a ranting religious nut who scares little children. The religious guy, named Andrew Borba, talks incessantly about the apocalypse and how God will judge the unrighteous. God is implied to have involvement in the world and there are supernatural things going on, but Borba is implied to be a crazy guy who happens to be religious. Unlike villains like the Master who mock and distort Christianity into a satanic religion, Borba believes he's a good Christian and does bad things in the name of God. Of course, since he turns into a vampire and babbles as a vampire, this is far less controversial than it sounds. In Season 4, Episode 18, Where the Wild Things Are, we get a far more challenging villain who's initially coded as a nice old lady, similar to the real Miss French in Teacher's Pet, while Borba is a strange menace from the outset. He even holds his mouth like he already has fangs. The next day at school, Buffy rants about the night to Xander. He supports her while trying to indicate that there are other options, hoping that she'll decide that he makes a good option. That is well and good on its own, and that is the best we get out of jealous Xander. He gets worse fast. Owen shows up and he's delighted to see Buffy. Turns out that he's only interested in her and was annoyed by Cordelia. They make a date for that night. He lends her his very handsome pocket watch, making Xander jealous with his dorky Tweety Bird watch. Though not depicted in detail until season 3, there is a general implication that Xander's family is poor, adding an element of class conflict to his relationships with other characters. Xander certainly gets jealous over Owen, and this brings out the worst in him. That night, he and Willow go over to Buffy's house to help her prepare for her date. Buffy seems to think that a male friend's opinion would be useful, but Xander tries to sabotage every decision to make her as unattractive to Owen as possible. That is deplorable. He has basically just decided that he owns Buffy and no one has a right to her but him. The fact that this episode just accepts that as a cute aspect of a male friend makes this episode sexist, and it points at the way maleness is culturally associated with that kind of entitled behavior, which is accepted as normal and even endearing. It's just sexist, and it's the main reason why feminists tend to hate Xander as a character. Though I'll just chalk it up to one episode's anomalous behavior and not condemn the whole character for it. First, Buffy questions if she should wear something conservative or outgoing. He picks something so conservative it's absurd. She thinks he's joking or something and moves on, asking him if he thinks that Owen would prefer red or peach lipstick. He says if she kisses Owen, he'll tell all his friends that she's easy, and the whole school will hate her. Again, dismissed as a joke. This goes back to that slut-shaming of Welcome to the Hellmouth that makes Buffy dated as a feminist show.
It's carbon dating.
Though Xander's ramblings are extreme, it at no point conveys the idea that slut-shaming is bad, just that Buffy wouldn't be a slut merely for kissing a boy, first date or not. Willow hands Buffy an outfit and shoos Xander away so she can change. Xander immediately goes to a mirror so that he can peep on her. Xander! Why is this scene as endearing? It's creepy. He makes noise and the girls look at him, but only Willow gets what happened. She looks angry, but nothing happens from it. There's a knock at the door and she runs down to meet Owen. Unfortunately, it's Giles. He read about the crash and realized that it was a sacrifice to summon the Anointed One. He points to a picture of Andrew Borba, the suspected murderer, and suggests that he's the Anointed One, saying that Buffy needs to come with him to the funeral home to slay him when he rises. Owen then shows up and complicates things, forcing Buffy and Giles to speak in code. Willow and Xander lead Owen away so that Buffy and Giles can talk freely. Once in the living room, Xander offers Owen unhelpful advice to sabotage the date. Willow objects but doesn't have the confidence to really tell him off, so Xander rampages unhindered. He's such a jerk in this episode. Where's that clip from Witch?
You should probably know that Buffy doesn't like to be kissed. Actually, she doesn't even like to be touched. As a matter of fact, don't even look at her.
I mean, officially I had to deplore violence, but that was, it totally worked the loss of karma points.